Hi, second grade. Happy Monday. Today's lesson is Module 8, Lesson 9. This is for Monday, May 18th. Here is our schedule for this week. So today is May 18th, and we are completing Lesson 9, starting on page 3 in your new packet. If you are listening, remember that today you should be logging on to iReady to complete your reading diagnostic. It is very important that you are taking your time and doing the best you can on those questions independently. Tomorrow, you will be able to access your math diagnostic. Same thing, please take your time and do the best you can. Remember that there are YouTube lessons that you should be watching from Mrs. Kading and myself that are wishing you good luck, explaining expectations for your testing environment. Please follow along with those videos before taking your iReady test. And then the rest of this week, we will continue our same routine for our lessons. As a reminder, you need to log on to edulastic.com to complete your mid-module 8 math assessment. So that testing window opened on Friday, and it is still available for you to log on and complete if you haven't done it yet. are the materials that you will need for today's lesson. Please find one sheet of paper, a blank sheet of paper. You will need page 6, the circle template in your packet, and you will need to keep this circle for tomorrow's lesson. Scissors, at least one crayon to color with or a colored pencil, and page 8 in your packet that has the shaded in rectangles and circles. Please hold your piece of paper out in front of you. Just like mine, what shape is this piece of paper? Be as specific as possible. Good. This is called a rectangle. How could you prove that this is a rectangle? Describe some of its attributes. I can prove that this is a rectangle by its number of sides and looking at its angles. So I know a rectangle has 4 sides. One pair of the sides is longer than the other, and something very important about a rectangle's angles or corners is that they are square corners, and we call square corners a right angle. Can you say that new word? Right angle. Now show me a right angle using your arms. You should be holding your arms out in the shape of an L, straight up and to the side. That is a right angle. Hands down. Now we are ready to fold our rectangle. I am going to choose one way to fold my paper in half, and then you are going to fold your paper in half another way. So it has to be different than my way. I am going to keep my paper horizontal, and then I'm going to fold one side over to the other, and once they are touching, I know that I have folded it in half equally. When I open my paper back up, this is what it looks like. So the dotted line is my folded line. I'm going to draw a straight line down the middle, so over the folded line, and shade it in on one side. How much of my rectangle is shaded? What should I label it? This is 1/2 shaded. So I'm going to write down 1/2 on this side. Now it's your turn. I want you to fold your paper in half another way. And then remember to shade in 1/2 and label it. Here are some other ways you could have folded your rectangle in half differently than mine. On the first example, they decided to turn their paper up and down, and they folded it from top to bottom. So we have a horizontal line dividing that. On the next one is a diagonal line, and then the other one, their rectangle is facing up and down, different than mine, and folded from side to side. You have partitioned your paper into 2 equal shares. That new word, partition, means to cut or divide. And we have partitioned our rectangles into halves. Say that word with me, halves. Next, I want you to take your scissors and cut along your folded line, and then hold up your papers. How many pieces of paper are you holding up? 2. You are holding up 2 halves of your rectangle. Put them back together now. Now what do you have? Now we have 1 whole. So when we cut them apart, they are showing 2 halves. When we put them back together, it is now 1 whole. Next, you're going to set your rectangle to the side and grab page 6. This is the page with the circle on it. Use your scissors to cut out the circle right along the black line. Make sure that you hold on to this circle after today because we will need it for tomorrow's lesson. After you have cut out your circle, please fold it in half. And I want you to think, is there more than one way to do that? Can we fold a circle in half more than one way? The answer is yes, we could fold it in half differently depending on which way we turn and look at the circle once it is open. And that line could be going up and down, side to side, diagonally. So there are different ways that we could fold it in half based on how we're looking at it. Here's my circle folded in half. This is kind of reminding me of one of my favorite types of foods. What does it look like? It looks kind of like a taco. Once your circle is back open, I want you to use your crayon to draw a straight line down the folded line. Then color in 1/2. And I want you to label it. What are we going to write down on the side that is shaded? Good, we are going to label it as 1/2. Now we are not going to cut out the circle on the dotted line. Please do not cut your circle in half. At this time, I want you to practice rotating your circle around so you can look at the halves in different ways. As you can see, we are still showing 1/2 no matter where the divided line is or the folded line. So the line doesn't really matter as long as both parts are equal size and are showing halves equally. So I notice that all of these circles are showing 1/2 shaded. They are also showing 1/2 unshaded, and they are also representing 2 halves. So the circles are all folded and showing 2 halves. We are done using our circle template. Please make sure that you did not cut the circle in half. And then we need to hold on to that circle in a safe place so we can reuse it for tomorrow's lesson. Next, I need you to grab page 8 in your packet, so turn to that page. You do not need to pull this page out. I want you to look at all the shapes on your page. So we have some circles and rectangles and squares. And I want you to talk about all the reasons each shape is or is not 2 equal shares with 1 share shaded. Once you are done discussing, I want you to circle as many shapes that you see that are showing 1/2 shaded, and it has to be showing 2 equal shares. If you see a shape that is not partitioned into 2 equal shares or showing 1/2 shaded, you can put an X through it. Pause the video for your think time. Shape A is showing 2 equal shares and 1/2 is shaded. Shape D is showing 1/2 shaded and is partitioned into halves equally. Shape E should be circled. It is showing 1/2 equally. And shape F is showing 1/2 shaded and equally. Shapes B and C are not showing 2 equal shares. Why is shape B not showing 2 equal shares? It is not equal because the folded line is not equally down the middle, and the shaded part is much smaller than the other part, so that is unequal. Why is shape C not showing 2 equal shares? Shape C looks more like 1/3 that is shaded. So this is not even folded into halves. It's folded into thirds. I see 3 pieces, and those pieces are unequal. The shaded part is bigger than the other pieces. We are all done with our concept development. It is time for your independent work time on pages 9 and 10. Follow along and I will read through the questions. Question 1. Circle the shapes that have 2 equal shares with 1 share shaded. So please circle the shapes that are showing 1/2 shaded. Question 2. Shade 1/2 of the shapes that are split into 2 equal shares. The first one has been done for you. Shape A does show 2 equal shares, so I shaded in 1/2. On the rest of the shapes, only shade in 1/2 if it is showing equal shares, 2 equal shares. You can put an X through a shape if it does not show 2 equal shares. So shape C does not show 2 equal shares. I do not need to shade in 1/2 of that shape. On page 10, you are going to partition these shapes into halves. Remember what partition means. Partition means to cut or to divide. Means to cut or to divide. So you are going to divide the shapes to show halves. Remember how many pieces show halves? 2 pieces. Then shade 1/2 of each. Can you partition shapes that are the same differently? Yeah. So I see some different shapes on there that are being repeated. Make sure that you are showing different ways on those ones. I will show an example for the squares. So notice how I showed halves 2 different ways, and then you need to shade in 1/2. On your homework, page 11, this is due for credit. So as soon as you are done completing it, please send a picture to me and I can give you credit. Question 1, circle the shapes that have 2 equal shares with 1 share shaded. So not all of those shapes should be circled. Question 2, shade 1/2 of the shapes that are split into 2 equal shares. 1 has been done for you. Some debrief questions. So on question 2, look at shapes G and H. Are these shapes partitioned into 2 equal shares? How do you know? Pause the video to explain your thinking. I notice that shape G is partitioned into halves equally. However, shape H is not. So you should not shade in 1/2 of shape H. It is slightly unequal and it is not partitioned down the middle equally. What does partition mean? Can you draw an example of how to partition this square into 2 equal shares? Partition means to cut or divide. Here is one example of how to partition this square into 2 equal shares. So I did it diagonally. My last question for the day. Is there more than one way to partition a circle and a rectangle? Explain your thinking. The answer is yes. Here are some different examples for ways to partition a circle and a rectangle into halves. That is all for today's lesson. I look forward to receiving your guys' homework. Bye.